This episode contains discussions of sexual abuse and suicide. These topics may be distressing or triggering for some listeners. Please take care while listening and feel free to skip this episode or pause at any time if you need to. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Tony and Sarah Unscripted. Sarah is not here today, but she is definitely here in spirit. But we want to welcome back Tim and Eddie. Welcome back to the show. We had to have them back on. Your stories were amazing. We weren't done with the conversation. And I want to share what I held really close to my heart from that episode was, Tim, I believe you said, if telling our story helps one person out there that might feel alone, feel seen, that's turning pain into power. That was super, super courageous. So first of all, thank you both for being back here. Eddie, how do you feel about that statement about, turning pain into power and really putting yourself out there to help other people?
When you guys started posting our snippets of our last podcast in one of the comments that I think Sarah wrote, or I don't know who wrote it, says, this is a story of resiliency. I immediately thought, I'm not resilient. You're resilient. What you've gone through and what you've done with that pain and turning that into power. But I feel like I'm 58 years old and I've just coasted through life. I do share my story in AA meetings and with people, and sometimes it affects them in a way that makes them feel less alone, like Tim said, but I feel like a failure. I feel like I've accomplished nothing. Honestly, this is just the way I feel. So there's no resiliency there. The podcast that I was listening to, Monica Lewinsky and Lena Dunham, and I think it was Monica Lewinsky that said that sometimes being resilient is just taking the next breath.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that it's a beautiful statement. I breathe because I have no choice. In other words, I don't intentionally take a breath. If I don't, it's just, you have to breathe, but I didn't see it as being resilient. That being said, after our last conversation, you talked to me about forgiving yourself, which stayed with me. It stayed with me. And I thought, that's something, it's part of one of the 12 steps in the program. And I never really forgave myself. There are things they say in AA, in the program, that you're not going to regret the past. You will no longer regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. I still have so much regret. I still have so much regret for the things that I did, the way that I treated people, the money I stole, the lies I told. And even though I've talked about it, I've confessed, I still carry that and let that define how I see myself. But in the last few weeks, I started to think I never really participated in my own healing. I accepted the thoughts I had as fact, even though I will tell people all the time, feelings aren't facts. You may feel like a piece of shit. It doesn't make it true.
Right.
I accepted those feelings, as truth. And I don't know. It's so hard because when you're in a good space, it's easy to see, how to take control of your thinking. But I think back of all the times I dated people, right? And take them hostage. Like you just take them hostage. You're like, I need to be with you. I need to be, and then they break up with you. And I was shattered. And I couldn't sit there with the pain. I needed to know, well, what happened? Why did you love me? What did I do wrong?
Right.
And it's like, the thing that this man is fucking crazy. Can I say crazy?
You can say whatever you want. It's unscripted.
But you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And, when you're talking about this, I think about, I'm a certified life coach. I went to IPEC coaching. And one of the things that have stuck with me I'm a life coach now for almost 14 years, is when the instructor said to us, you're a blueprint of everything that's ever happened to you, good or bad. And I think about that, like, I like who I am today. And I can't look back and say, I wish that never happened. Even the bad shit, even the sexual abuse, the drug use, everything, the way I treated people, the money I stole from people, I can't say I wish that never happened, or I wouldn't be who I am today. So you're a blueprint of everything that's ever happened to you, good or bad. And that really helps me. It helped me in the healing process of I have to forgive myself for hurting myself, because forgiving myself is harder than forgiving other people for how they've wronged me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't understand, like, the blueprint, it is, I get that. I am the mistakes, the good and the bad, but what do you do with that? Yeah, I know this person who thinks these thoughts is made up of all the behavior,
Yeah.
good and bad. And you will never hear me say good things about myself, but I know I am a good, caring, loving, giving person.
Right.
That is innate in me. It's innate in my family. I know that exists in me, but it's the bad that I focus on.
Yeah, like if you can only see yourself the way others see you, right? Because you're fabulous. I think you're wonderful. I think you're a kind person. I don't even know you that well. And your energy is powerful.
Thank you.
Well,
You
I just
know?
remember the comment that Sarah made in the last episode that, when she has gone through challenges in the time that we have been friends with the Salados, Sarah said lots of people were sending her messages, etc., and Eddie sent her a prayer, and how meaningful that was to her, and that how she was experiencing God through. So, I mean, I live with the guy who is hard on himself and struggles to embrace the things that you just described, Eddie, that are so true of him, the most generous person I've known, literally.
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration. Just there's this natural desire to give and to take care of individuals. And so, but also as he was talking about resiliency, just in the last few weeks, and I told this to Eddie yesterday, that I've just observed some behavior in him that evidences progress. It's those micro steps that we all hope for, but that I've just observed behavior in him in terms of responding to some things that sucked, some challenges, etc., and didn't fold, didn't crumble, and did not wallow in it the way that he has done, in the past. Again, micro steps, but it was like a
Micro steps count.
significant. Yeah, it was like a significant observation of, Eddie, do you realize this is how you responded, which was wonderful, and it just resiliency is a life journey that ends when we die. You know.
I mean, everyone deserves happiness and stuff like that. La la la. Okay, but from my heart to your heart, both of your hearts, for those of us who have suffered, we need that. We deserve it. Now, I'm going to say this to you, Eddie, because I don't know you that well. But if you can't give yourself permission to forgive yourself, I give you permission to do it. And I will hold that in my heart until you're ready to take it. How's that sound?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. What else can I do for you?
Sounds like a
You know
deal.
what I mean? Is it a good deal?
Yes.
It's a good deal.
So, what Tim just said about what I've gone through in the last few days, which just a deal fell apart. Normally, I would personalize it. God hates me. This is punishment for who I am, for who I was, the things that I did. But it was, I would say, almost effortless. I learned a lot from this deal. This one deal that fell apart. It would have been my first real estate deal. And I don't know that I would have thought that before. Take the value in what happened, in the lessons that I learned. It was a crash course on everything.
Wow.
Learning about real estate in Connecticut, which is different than what I was doing in Chicago. Yeah. So, but the last few weeks, I try not to engage in the negative thinking, but there hasn't been a lot of reason for the negative thinking. I think, I would never look myself in the mirror. I would look to see, but never look at yourself in the mirror. No, I don't like what I see, but I haven't even been thinking that way. So, I'm trying to make the effort to show up for my own healing, my own growth. But what scares me is like, if I weren't with Tim and I were dating and all of a sudden I'm in a relationship and the person doesn't call, my day's ruined. I don't know how that would be
I
today.
know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's how I used to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. Tim and I have been together for 16 years and, right?
Yeah.
16 years.
Well done, Eddie. Well done.
And,
Yay.
I haven't had to think those thoughts, but my God.
But you still go back to them, huh?
Oh, because I would crumble. And I talked to my therapist about that. It's like the fear of like, have I changed? Because I found my therapist who was with me when I tried to kill myself in 1992. When we moved to Connecticut and I knew I needed to get back in therapy, I found a therapist here. I was like, this man, I told him how I think about myself. And he goes, when you have those thoughts, take a piece of paper and pen and just write something positive about yourself. And I thought to myself,
no, that's not going to work.
This is not going to work.
Just think happy thoughts.
Yeah.
Peter Pan.
You'll be fine.
I don't know what in the world possessed me, but I tracked down Leslie Deutsch, who was my therapist before I even accepted that I was gay.
Wow.
She was my therapist. She's a lesbian. I didn't know that. Did I tell you this?
No,
she's
please tell us.
And I didn't know she was a lesbian. When I went to her and I was like trying to accept the fact that I was gay, like trying to accept that I was in acting school, there were out people around me and I couldn't be what they were. I couldn't be, out loud and proud. And then she told me one day that she was carrying twins and she needed to go on bed rest. And she said she couldn't see me. And I thought, wow. I said, how would you feel if one of your sons, because she knew she was having boys, were gay? She says, I would be fine with that. And I said, well, what about your husband? And at that point, there was a pause. And then she was like, well, I'm not married. I'm having, these children, these babies with my wife or my partner, I think she said at the time. And I was like, wait a minute. You're like, I couldn't believe that this woman who is making me feel better about myself was a sexual deviant too. Like I felt duped. I felt duped. And I just remember like disassociating. Like, I don't know how I got out of there. I didn't, I was just like, what, I couldn't believe. I felt like, of course you're telling me it's okay because you're fucked up too. You're lesbian. Like, this is so wrong.
Oh, wow.
So she went on bed rest. I hadn't seen her for a while, but by the time I did go back to her, I had made progress and accepted my sexuality. And I don't know what happened. I think I met someone and started to accept the feelings. He's also the reason I tried to kill myself and overdosed in 1992 because he broke up with me. And that's where I go. If you don't love me, I am not worthy of being loved. And everything everyone ever said to me was true. It was every breakup was that. I want to die. I can't sit with the pain, and that's part of the healing process. And all of these self-help books is, don't act on the impulse.
Yeah.
Sit, it'll go away. I don't have that ability to, just sit in the discomfort. I need answers. I need to know. Just tell me I'm a piece of shit. I can accept that. Tell me that's why you broke up with me.
Well, how about if they were a piece of shit?
I mean,
that's why they were.
Let me tell you,
most of the time, come on,
these guys, and I think, oh, you did me a favor.
Thank you.
Exactly.
But I feel like every partner that I've had has really taught me some serious lessons. Really, I mean, you know what I mean, like patience and when, like, I'm the same way. When I fall for somebody, well, I'm hoping I'm getting better at this. But when I fall for someone, that's it. They're everything, and even if they treat me like shit, I write this story that, they're going to give me what I need eventually. And I think sometimes that comes from being raised by unloving parents. I don't know what love, I used to say that to my therapist all the time. I don't know what love feels like. I don't know what love feels like. So I had to make up what I felt it felt like. And if you come from abuse, them not being treated kindly by somebody who says they love you feels normal. Right?
I mean, that is, I'm going to go someplace dark, but I know my parents loved me. They had 6 kids trying to make it in America, didn't speak the language, were not there for us. 6 kids needed to raise themselves. I'm having, I don't know, sexual relations with an older man who would give me money, who would hold me. That was love to me. An older man, you know, and so I would seek out love through sexual relations. If you want to have sex with me, you must love me, you know, and that's what love was. I have to go back to something. When I first met Tim, and I don't know if we talked about this the first time, I said, you know, he wanted to date, you know, like he made it very clear that he was interested in me. And I was like, Tim, this is your first relationship out of a straight marriage. You don't want to be with me. Like this is a lot of baggage.
Warning kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, and I don't know, you know, we just spent time. We really it wasn't a relationship that was based on sex.
Yeah.
It was a friendship that developed over
the best
a year.
ones, they say. 16 years, I guess it's right.
Yeah, and it hasn't always been easy, but you know, we have a genuine love and care for each other. You know, that is new to me. This man, oof, you know, he's put up with a lot. You know, and as crazy and as dark as as crazy and as the darkness that I can kind of live in, there's also this little kid in me that just loves to make him laugh. You know, and the stupid things all day, every day that I do, you know, I you know, he knows. And my favorite thing is to make him laugh, you know, and to to guffaw, you know, like this guy will just like from the gut laugh.
Yeah.
And it's me just being an idiot. And only he and maybe 2 of my sisters ever get to see that person.
I was just going to say, I feel very special because he is willing to be a complete idiot, and so silly, but the guy's funny. And, you know, he does it. There's a small audience for his full humor, but I feel honored that I get to be part of that. But when we think back to when we started our friendship, we were friends for 2 years before we started dating, and I was in the process of you know, separating from my wife, and he was in a relationship at the time, and we met, and we just immediately clicked and loved hanging out with each other. And it was like, boom, every day we would just hang out, go to a movie, just whatever. We were both, you know, doing plays in Chicago at the time, so we were running lines together, etc. And he did give me that warning. You know, I was like, I'm a dick. Like, you do not want to engage. And I heard it, I dismissed it, because my experience was I just really enjoyed being with him. And I'm so grateful that, and my motivation at the time was probably completely selfish. I love this feeling that I have when I'm with him hanging out. Again, it was not sexual. It was not that kind of a relationship, but I loved the feeling, that care and generosity and just kindness that he described. I was receiving all of that, and it felt wonderful, and it felt pure because it wasn't mixed up in a sexual romantic relationship. It was just us, whatever we were. Clearly I was attracted to him, but anyway, I'm so grateful that, you know, now on the other side of it, and we've gone through challenging times in our relationship, you know, like any other relationship, you know, friendship, romantic, family, you name it, we all go through your challenges. But oh my gosh, now on the other side of it, even despite the challenges, my view is just that we're just good together. Mm-hmm. there's something that is just, you know, we've said to each other, God placed us in each other's path for a reason. And I do believe that. And there is just something that is good about the combination of Tim and Eddie. And I'm grateful that I didn't listen to you. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't listen to you, but you know.
So 2 years as friends.
Yeah.
And did it just meld into relationship, or was there a lot of talking about it?
No,
I mean,
there was no talking about it,
so
Tony.
no talking. Well,
It just literally, we went on, you know, a couple trips to South Beach together, just, you know, as friends. And then on one of those trips, you know, it just turned a romantic corner.
yeah.
Two things happen, and when I sleep, I talk in my sleep, I threaten
Oh, yeah.
in my sleep. At some point, I don't remember this, but Tim said, "You just leaned over and kissed me on the cheek." I thought, "Oh, that's weird." And then there was a time when he had on a pair of jeans, and I thought, "Oh my God, that man's got a really nice ass." And
I've never noticed that
I
before.
never noticed it before. You know, he
How dare you?
he would call me buddy. Hey, buddy.
Oh
And I'd be
God.
like, who the hell is
Tony,
this guy?
don't judge
No,
that.
could I just really stop for a second? You know, when I say, oh God,
Sure.
because I went to this doctor, okay, a gastrologist. I'm not going to say his name,
Okay.
but that's what he said. Hey, buddy. And I'm like, hey, buddy, sit over there, buddy. Put your stuff there, buddy. I'm like, what the hell is going on with
Thank
this
you.
buddy thing? So,
Thank
so
you.
people actually use that? Sorry,
Oh,
Doc. I thought you were a little.
he has told so many people that he
Fun of
married
him.
Mr. Rogers.
This guy's never done a drug.
Oh,
You know, I would make fun of him, say when he gets out on his bike, he uses the hand signals. What was interesting?
you really?
No,
I
he doesn't.
don't.
well,
but
'cause I
he's,
wouldn't be surprised to be
10 and 12 on
that's
the
his
steering wheel.
image.
Shows the speed limit. This is who I married, you know. And,
Wow.
But my
Opposites
sister,
attract.
yes, very much so. My sister Rosie, the youngest, would always. Well, she a couple of times. She's like, "Does he get your sense of humor?" Like, 'cause she knows that. And what I was thinking is that this persona, this kid, is a child. You know, the things I tell him, I make up stories, and it's like a little kid who's
Yeah.
just making up stories, and it just occurred to me, it was like, that is the kid I never got to be. You know, I never got to be that kid.
Yeah.
And he'll tell me I'm coming home. I said, okay, I'm gonna go hide. And you know,
Just been stupid.
it's so stupid. It's like, okay, I'm like,
But I'll laugh.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll laugh.
I just say, like, you probably have learned so much from each other, having like such different lives, like being brought up from the last time how you shared. You know, you're like you've had a family that
Yeah.
pretty stable, right?
Yeah.
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 this
So-
man had his car broken into and the stereo ripped out. This is what I remember. I don't think we were dating.
No.
And he said, "Oh, they smashed my window. I got to go get a new window." And just normal, like, you know, I have to go to the store and make a deposit at the bank. And I was like, oh my God, if that were me, I'd be on the floor crying. Like, this is more evidence God hates me. And he just deals. He just deals.
Yeah.
And I always stuck out to me, you know, and he still just continue. I've seen him get upset at things, but he just, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fix the situation. And I go into victim mode, like, you know, the universe hates me, and this is more evidence, you know, that I'm being punished. And you
I
know,
think I definitely catastrophize. I've talked to my therapist, you know, often about that, but that fix it mode is, I think, almost like a defense mechanism of, okay, this situation, what do I need to do to get the hell out of that? What do I need to do to be on the other side of that? Boom, 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 make this phone call. Okay, cool. I'm bringing my car over. Make it go away. And so, I mean, it serves me because I will just address things and fix them as best I can. But
Yeah.
in your podcast, you talked about being on Thorazine, and I hope you don't mind. if-
No. Huh? Yeah.
Were you diagnosed bipolar?
No.
They put you on Thorazine.
Yeah, I was young. I'm talking about probably not even 13 years old
Yeah.
because I didn't know what to do. I mean, back then, you know, I'm 63. So, you know, I was up like in the 70s, you know.
wouldn't
when-
have thought that.
Oh, I don't,
Tony.
thank you. Thank you. I don't act or look my age.
Neither.
But back then, nobody knew how to deal with
Yeah.
a kid who was so, you know,
Dark.
yeah.
Yeah.
dark. Yeah. So Thorazine, the Thorazine shuffle,
Yeah.
as they say.
I've been on Thorazine, Latuda, every kind of medication. I was diagnosed bipolar at Silver Hill when I went in to get. I actually didn't go to Silver Hill to get sober, but I discovered AA in
Yeah.
Silver Hill.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to talk about AA. That's why I always hesitate. You're not supposed,
Yeah.
whatever, the program to get recovery. But I went in because I wanted to hurt myself. And, but that's where they said, and I do have bipolar tendencies. Tim, I was thinking about this as he was talking. He never overspends. Like, he knows what his budget is. I will get a paycheck, deplete, gone. It's gone on things. And then I'm like, I have no money. Like, what did I do?
Yeah.
It's like this inability to control my impulses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something that you had said about just your early challenges triggered this topic of regret. And I was thinking about this morning that I do have some regrets. People have asked me, what regrets do you have? And I think about the regrets I do have and the regrets I don't. And the regrets that I don't have are the story that I shared in the last episode of coming out, my beautiful children, my grandchildren, meeting Eddie. All of that journey had a purpose to it, and I have no regrets. The only regret that I have really is I know I caused people pain. My children, who wants to hear from their father that they're gay, that immediately threatens their feeling of home and safety, what's going to happen to our family. And I have regret for, my ex-wife for the hurt that I caused her. So my regrets are about hurt that I have caused people, but I have no regrets. And I have gratitude for the fact that somehow I mustered the courage to separate from a 30-year marriage that I catastrophized, so I'm going to ruin my family. I'm going to explode my family. And somehow I had faith that doesn't have to be the outcome.
Right.
But yeah,
That's bit. I mean, you live it, so I don't think like you don't even feel the magnitude of that. The courage you had to do that. People listening would be like, "What? This guy did what? 30 years and he
crazy."
Yeah. But I mean, when you were telling the story, what a fulfilling life. I mean, you've experienced everything. You've had children, now you have grandkids. Really, that's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's good. And everybody sees each other. And
I was going to say, when Eddie talks about how I love his sense of humor, my children, like they really they get his humor too, and there's a silliness that is just. It brings joy.
well, listen, I can talk to you guys all day.
Same.
All day, and we might have to have a part 3.
No.
Who knows? Who knows? Because maybe we'll get a little glimpse of Eddie's
Recovery.
foolish humor.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Maybe Eddie will hide next
I
time.
think Sarah knows.
Oh, yeah?
She experienced some
I'll
of
have to
that.
talk to her later. So
It's been
thank
an hon-
you.
it's been an
Listen,
honor,
thank you so
pleasure.
much
Thank
for
you.
Absolutely.
being back on. And everyone, have a great day. Thanks for listening. See you next time.